New youth prison is destined for Melbourne's west. Malcolm Turnbull's promise to find a way to reduce power bills. And the AFL's women ready to make their mark on Australia's game.
This is 9 News with Peter Hitchener.
Good evening. 3 police officers have been injured in wild clashes at the homeless camp outside Flinders Street Station. Dozens of activists joined the chaos, during which a 9 News cameraman was punched. Brett McLeod has the latest.
Amid the shouting and the shoving and the arrests, it wasn't immediately clear who was homeless and who were activists. But even the media was in the firing line. The government says 19 people who had been camping here had already been given accommodation. Now the rest are being told to move on to allow for Flinders Street reconstruction works.
We urge those few remaining genuinely homeless people to engage with our services and leave that camp.
Justin says he's been waiting 4 years for accommodation where he can be with his children.
I've got 2 little kids, one's 11, one's 8, and I'm just waiting for public housing. You know, the government's bringing these boat people here, pushing us down the list further and further.
One passerby made it clear he wasn't a supporter of the camp.
Get off the streets!
As police numbers built, Naomi, who says she's been here a month, warned of what was to come.
Watch your head, you'll get bottled. Yeah, it will be.
So you think it may turn violent?
But it will turn violent. And people will use weapons as well.
At 1 p.m, police issued a warning the rough sleepers had to get clear of the area or face arrest. And eventually, they did. Sleeping bags and other items gathered over weeks were packed up and carried away. But as police formed a line at the now former camp, tensions boiled over. This man in a mobility scooter having an ongoing confrontation with police, while others dismantled police barricades and the protests became more physical. But in a moment of relative calm, without provocation, one man walked up and punched our camera. He was tackled by a security guard before police stepped in and arrested him. The street was eventually cleared, but the protesters remain. One, Ezekiel Ox, a familiar sight at Melbourne demonstrations. Police said while the homeless had largely complied with requests to move along, their problems were with the activists, one of whom they say punched an officer from behind.
The policeman was standing on the line doing his job, working for the public, and he was hit in the back of the head. Punched deliberately and forcibly in the back of the head.
In all, 3 police were injured, 5 protesters arrested. Brett McLeod, 9 News.
And Madeline Slattery joins me now live from Flinders Street. Maddie, what remains of the campsite?
Well, good evening, Pete. In short, nothing at all. The only evidence that this homeless camp ever existed is a little bit of chalk graffiti lining the walls here at Flinders Street Station. All of the rubbish, the bedding, pillows and that resident dog that had been here for weeks on end has now been cleared. It was more or less a clean sweep by police. For those familiar with what this site looked like over the past few weeks, it certainly looks very different. It hasn't looked this clear or clean for weeks on end now. And in place of the homeless camp is now some temporary fencing that was erected late this afternoon, and construction workers have told me they will be erecting some permanent hoardings later tonight so that renovation work can kick off as soon as possible. And of course, following those violent scenes earlier today, police are maintaining a presence here to ensure things don't flare up later on tonight, Pete.
Okay, thanks.